I'm Rich Barrabi. Today on News 12's Power and Politics.
This is all infrastructure, despite what others may have claimed.
I've been working on this for 10 years. This was a good compromise bill.
Republican members of the House who voted for President Biden's infrastructure bill are defending its merits. This as some members of their own party call for them to be stripped of their committee assignments and as they face threats from the public.
Hope you die. Hope your family dies. Hope everybody your staff dies. You piece of shit. Traitor!
You know, we've seen civility really downslide here.
Congressman Andrew Garbarino is here. He voted for the bill. He says it's good for Long Island. Police say he received a death threat as a result of his vote. The congressman joins us next. News 12's Power and Politics begins right now. And welcome to this week's edition of News 12's Power and Politics. I'm Rich Barrabi. Sayville Congressman Andrew Garbarino is one of just 13 Republicans who voted for President Biden's $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill. That has some of his fellow GOP members of Congress calling him and the others who voted alongside of him traitors. It's even resulted in death threats.
I totally agreed with Andrew Garbarino's vote on the infrastructure bill, but whether I agreed or not, this whole idea of threatening people, of other members of Congress giving out phone numbers, office numbers to harass and intimidate and threaten is absolutely disgraceful.
That was retired Congressman Peter King, Congressman Garbarino's predecessor. But Garbarino is not the only one receiving threats. In fact, the 13 House Republicans who voted for the bill have been dealing with this type of thing for days now.
Georgia Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene is taking heat for tweeting out the phone numbers of the 13 Republican House members who voted in favor of President Biden's infrastructure bill. One of them, Fred Upton of Michigan, played a voicemail threat he received after the Greene tweet to CNN's Anderson Cooper.
Hope you die. Hope your family dies. Hope everybody your staff dies. You piece of shit. Traitor!
You know, we've seen civility really downslide here. I'm concerned about my staff. They're taking these calls. They're threats to them.
Death threats, that type of vitriol over a vote about roads and rails? Joining us today is Congressman Andrew Garbarino. Congressman, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I want to talk about what's actually in the bill. We're going to do that later in the show. The good, the bad, the ugly. We can talk all about that. But first, I think we really need to talk about what's taking place right now in the country, specifically these threats that we are seeing. In fact, police just made an arrest after you received a death threat. What can you tell us about this situation?
Well, I can't specifically talk about that case. There was an arrest in a case where someone did threaten my life. I can't specifically talk about it because it is an ongoing criminal case. But overall, myself and my colleagues have received threatening calls, threatening messages on social media. It's happening, and it's really sad because it all comes from misinformation. They don't have the right information about these bills. They think that what's in them is not actually in them. And it's being pushed out there on social media. The news has not been great. When you have news broadcasters calling 13 members traitors because they voted for infrastructure, it's causing people to get very angry, and it's coming from nowhere. I never thought I'd receive a death threat over voting for paving roads and clean water.
Are you concerned, Congressman, not just for your own safety, but for the safety of members of your staff, both on Long Island and in D.C.?
Absolutely. I mean, we've already also had to have the police come to the office for someone who showed up at the district office in Massapequa Park. Was angry and was yelling. They were banging, just not on my office, but they were causing a scene in several other offices in the building. So police had to be called there just the other day. I am concerned, because again, people are very angry, but their anger is coming from not understanding what's in the bill and from people putting out lies on Facebook and social media, and it's getting very angry. Once you explain to people what was in the bill, it seems to calm some people down. So I think it's just all those misinformation and lies that are out there that's really causing people, to do things that they would normally not do.
So what does it say to you about the tone in Washington and beyond because of that reach from social media and elsewhere? Again, this is an infrastructure bill. There are many hot-button topics, but you wouldn't think that infrastructure would be the one that would push people to such extremes, both left and right.
Yeah, it's sad, infrastructure. This is actually infrastructure and paving roads and sewers and money going into airports and seaports, railroad money. This is stuff that people actually, when they pay taxes, they hope it goes to this. People want their garbage picked up on time. They want their road paved and potholes fixed. That's what they expect when they pay taxes. And to see the anger coming out of this and see that people really turn this into a partisan issue, if it wasn't for what was going on social media and the politicization, the partisan, making this such a partisan issue, we would have had probably 80, 90 Republicans vote for this bill. But the fact that people are out there getting everybody riled up, I think a lot of people voted no just for their safety.
And, to that point, it's not just people on the outside riling others up. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, Republican of Georgia, obviously known to be someone who is on the extreme edge of the Republican Party, she put out your phone number. She put out the phone numbers of the other members of Congress who are Republicans who voted for this bill. What does that do? What's your message for Congresswoman Taylor Greene?
Well, I don't think Marjorie, wants any of us killed over our vote.
You would hope
I think she put it out there. I would hope not. I don't think she does. I think, she put it out there because she was angry. But the problem is we should all be, as a Republican Party, we should all be united against the reconciliation bill, which I know we're talking about later. Turning your firing squad on other members of your party because you don't agree with something that maybe you don't think is good for your district, but is definitely good for my district. It's not the right way to handle it. We have a political conference in Washington this week amongst all the members where I imagine we're going to discuss people's rhetoric because I don't think anybody was expecting death threats to come out of any of their social media pages. So hopefully they'll be able to calm down some of their rhetoric and we can get back to working all on the same page.
Okay, now you've mentioned the confusion over the bill, and we know that Congress was essentially debating two bills at once. You've got the infrastructure bill, which had a measure of bipartisan support. Then you've got the separate social spending bill that the Democrats are going to try to do on their own here. But do you think that many, and I know you put an explainer on your social media pages, you think some of these people may be confusing the two and think that you voted for the other bill, the social spending bill, the so-called safety net?
Absolutely. It's 100% the fact that people are confusing the two bills. I have people commenting that how do you vote for increasing the IRS agents looking into bank accounts? How do you vote for legal immigrant amnesty and money for illegal immigrants? How do you vote for all these expansion of social welfare projects? And how do you vote for more taxes? None of that was in the actual physical infrastructure bill, which was, by the way, negotiated. Everybody's like, oh, it's a President Biden bill. This bill was negotiated amongst Republican and Democrat senators, Republican and Democrat governors, and even some Republican and Democrat House members. This was a bipartisan bill that, just because Joe Biden is president, he's president, but it doesn't mean it was his bill. It has physical infrastructure money going towards roads, bridges, sewers, railroads, subway, seaports, airports, broadband, anything you can think of where we're supposed to be actually spending money to, make our districts better. That's where that bill's going. This other reconciliation bill, which I think you'll have 100% opposition from the Republican Party because of the way Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and President Biden are going about negotiating. That is a bad bill. I think it's bad for the U.S. It's bad for my district. So I will not be supporting that. And it's just unfortunate that confusion. People think they're tied together when they're not.
There were reports that former President Trump had issued comments where he was disappointed that Republicans, including yourself, voted for this. How much of this do you think has to do with the fact, and Congressman Peter King actually mentioned it on News 12 this week, that for 4 years President Trump wanted an infrastructure deal. He did not get one across the finish line. You weren't in Congress at that time. You're there now. It gets across the finish line. Or some Republicans there saying, we don't want Biden to get the win here if our guy didn't get the win for 4 years.
Well, I mean, you know, there's a saying in Washington, it's been infrastructure week for 40 years. They've been trying to get an infrastructure bill done. I know President Trump worked very hard on getting an infrastructure bill done, but Speaker Pelosi wouldn't go along with anything. This was after the Democrats took over the House in 2019. But again, you can't govern by looking at wins for Democrats or Republicans. This is a win for my district. The amount of money that's going to be coming into my district to fix issues that we've had for a very long time, you know, this is a win for my district. There's no Republican or Democratic way to fill a pothole. I'm proud that a lot of projects that have needed to be addressed for a long time are finally going to be addressed under this bill. And I was happy to support it. And I know people who are angry now will realize the benefits of the infrastructure bill once they start seeing them happen.
Will you attend the president's signing ceremony?
No, I have between travel between Washington and district. You know, we've had very few days that we're in district. I have a lot of district events that have been scheduled for a while, and I have to make sure those are attended to first.
Okay, stay right there, because when we return, we're actually going to talk about what's in the actual bill. How does this impact you, the folks here on Long Island? Will it really fix our broken and aging infrastructure? You've all seen it with your own eyes. Congressman Garbarino is back with us on the other side of the break. Power and Politics returns right after this.